All right, I now have I removed the subframe from the bike, and as you can see, this is a very simple process, and just as I told you, you can see that I did in fact use the stock subframe. And what I mean by subframe is, if you, I'll get down here where we can see it a little bit better. This is the stock subframe here. This is the way it came from the factory. As you can see, I've even used the stock. I still have the factory wiring except for the little accessories that I added in, but this is the stock subframe that I used on this bike. I'll show you the differences though that I did do, that anyone can do to cheaply make a stock subframe work for them on their race bike. As you can see, what I've done is, in the rear of the subframe, was once the rear of the subframe where it bolted into the little plastic, under plastic that you have in the tailpiece of your Suzuki Hayabusa. There used to be, I'll get over here and look, right here, there used to be a metal bar, and that bar went entirely across the subframe from here, and get there where you can see it, to over to, get there, to this side of the subframe. So that metal bar went from here to over there. And what I did was, as you can see, I cut that metal bar out. And with that metal bar being cut out, it will now give me clearance and travel from my fender and my rear wheel, because when the bike leaves and the weight transfers, as the shock is compressed, my fender and my rear tire now can move up into that subframe, and it can do that now without hitting that bar that was there that was going across. As you can see, this used to be, they sell an item called the Tiger Tail. This was one of those Tiger Tails, this little aluminum piece here. As you can see, I took that little aluminum piece and I now have modified it to fit my needs. What I also did was, I went to the hardware and purchased a 3-foot in length threaded rod. And as you can see, I brought that rod back and I heated it up with a torch, and I made this arch shape with that threaded rod. And it goes from one side of my subframe, as you can see where it's bolted in here, all the way over to the other side of my subframe here. And as you can see, what I did was, with that threaded rod, I put some nuts on it so that I can loosen and tighten, which in turn I can adjust now the height of this to match my tailpiece, to get my tailpiece to set where I want it to sit, level and straight. I can take and just adjust these nuts here on that threaded rod. So that was a simple way for me to get my tailpiece to be level and get it the way that I wanted to get it on the bike. And so for basically about $5 of nuts, 4 nuts and a threaded rod, and this is just some duct tape. It's just some black duct tape over it. I was able to get that to function for my tailpiece without having to buy a aftermarket subframe. And if I get over here and I'll show you under the tailpiece what I've done. If I let me get a box or something so I won't scratch up my tailpiece here. Bear with me. As you can see, I'll get back here now. As you can see, this is the underneath of my tailpiece. I put in a little piece of foam there, just to cut out a little piece of foam, and I put it there to sit on top of my battery, and I'll show you a plate that I made. But under my tailpiece, I just took some home construction insulation, and the reason I done that is you see the black rubber that's on there. I done that for the purpose of when you're doing a burnout, in the burnout box, that the rubber, the rocks, and any foreign objects that would get caught in the tire that would fly up and hit the underneath side of my tailpiece, a rock would have the possibility of cracking it, let alone going through it, putting a hole in it. So I went to Home Depot, and that's where that's from, and it's actually just that filler insulation, and I just sprayed it in there, and it protects the bottom of my tailpiece from being damaged when I'm doing the burnout. So that's just something to, and another good thing is when you get one of these tailpieces, as you can see, I got the tailpiece that already had the tail light bracket already fabbed in on it. This will save you a lot of headaches. So spend the other, I think, $25 and get the tailpiece that has the tail light bracket included. It'll save you a headache. So, but other than that, as you can see, that's basically just an overview of the whole bike, basically the body, and as you can see, we don't have, I don't have a whole lot of money tied up in this particular motorcycle. So if you hang tight for a minute, I'm going to get in and show you the electronics that I got on it. I think before I do that, I'll show you one more thing. To me, this is the most important part of putting the motorcycle together. And this is where I actually spent most of the funding. It was in a couple of items, and one of them was in the suspension on the bike. I did use the sock suspension in the front, but in the rear, as you can see, I used a Penske fully adjustable shock. The shock is fully adjustable on the shock itself for rebound and dampening, and it also has underneath there's another rebound and dampening, so I can fully adjust this shock to my preference. And if you're gonna do, I would suggest, if you're going to do any type of race bike like this with a swing arm on it, set up at this length, spend your money wisely, because some people will say go ahead and build a big horsepower motor with a lot of torque and you're gonna fly down the track. Well, I'd rather build just a nice, clean, comfortable, non-big horsepower motor, but have the chassis set up, and I guarantee you that I'll probably get to the finish line first because my chassis set up so well that I could hook and leave while you're back there with your horsepower spinning, popping woolies, or whatever else may occur. I've done hooked and gone. So just a word to the wise. This is something that I religiously believe in. If you're going to build something like this or do something and someone says, hey, you need to spend your money in the chassis setup, this is where you can see I didn't mind spending over $1,000 getting my shock set up the way I wanted it. And now while I'm at the racetrack, I can simply come back and adjust this shock to do whatever I need it to do while I'm at the racetrack. So just a word to the wise as far as I'm concerned. When you're doing something like this, get a good shock. So and like I say, next I'll go into the electrical stuff, and so if you give me a few minutes, I'll show you some the simple electrical things that I've done on this motorcycle.